My mission actually is to enable leaders to empower their people and to empower themselves, to get rid of all of the rules and regulations that we've given to ourselves about how we should and should not be, and to step into a more authentic space as individuals, regardless of your role, whether you are a first line manager or a CEO.
Welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host Akanksha Kulkarni, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end OneView integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Jane Viljoen is the founder and multiple award-winning expert in human behavior at Best Hopes Coaching and Consulting Limited. As a registered psychologist and multiple award-winning executive coach, she shows CEOs, executives, and leadership teams how to finally enhance their fusion by learning how to truly connect and listen. She is also an executive coach at the Forbes Executive Council. We are extremely happy and thrilled to have her on our interview series today. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So let's dive into the interview, and I would like to ask the first question to you is, can you tell us a little bit about your work as an executive coach?
Yeah, of course. So I've been working essentially as a leadership and executive coach for almost 15 years now, and I work mostly with individuals and small teams of leaders, helping them really to elevate their impact by learning more about themselves and helping them to use strategies and techniques to really engage each other, push their own performance, and really to reach their potential. So the executive coaching part of my business is really the part I love the most. I really enjoy working with leaders. One thing to say that part of my work as an executive coach is that as a psychologist, I'm really passionate about taking evidence-based psychology and turning that into real practical tools that leaders and executives can use, making it simplified so that they can go away and experiment with all sorts of different psychological techniques and see how they work for them, and then come back and perhaps report that back to me, and we then discuss what worked, what they'd like to do more of, and so on. So I just love bringing in the psychology around leadership into those exchanges.
That's great. So you've enjoyed being an executive coach. That's what I get from the answer.
Yeah, definitely.
So you've mentioned that the lockdown is the biggest psychological experiment ever, right? So what aspects of the lockdown do you believe are going to, do long-term damage, and what should leaders focus on to ensure mental well-being of the employees?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, isn't it? Because we're still in this time, we're still in this process as we're recording this interview. So the lockdown has started to be eased and we're coming out of the other side. But what became very clear to me early on in this, this complete change in the way everybody was working, functioning, was that there was a lot of change and uncertainty, and not just for leaders having to lead organizations and teams, but for us as individuals trying to navigate, how do I operate, how do I work from home, how do I engage with my people, how do I do all of the things that are required of me. And so it became very clear to me and to many of us early on that people needed a lot of support around how to restructure the way they were working. And there was a lot of stress. People were experiencing a lot of pressure and strain and taking a lot of responsibility. They were responsible for these people, and they wanted to make sure they had the right structures at home to be setting up even technical side, computers. Do they have everything they need to do their job well? And so for individuals, for leaders, for organizations, for all of those people, this stress and strain has been an ongoing, constant over the last few months. And of course, as human beings, we're very good at adapting to stress in the short term. We're very good at drilling down and getting the adrenaline we need to crack on and, to get the job done. But when that endures over time and long drawn out periods of time, and we don't know the end point, that actually can cause quite a lot of mental health issues for people. It can lead to burnout, it can lead to feelings of stress, and actually, for some people it can lead on to more long-standing mental health issues like anxiety and depression. And so when I was thinking about when else in history, in our global world, when we work and as we do, have we had a period of time where everybody has been under the same stress and pressure all of a sudden? It's like a super experiment. I hope it will be a positive outcome for us, but I'm not sure we will know for a while yet, because perhaps into the autumn and winter of 2020, we'll start really seeing how people are coming out the other side, how they've been managing their stress and well-being. Have they been taking breaks? Have they been able to manage their work-life balance? They've got families at home, they're trying to work, they've got teams who need them. So I'm a little bit concerned, actually, that we might see a lot of executives, a lot of leaders, a lot of managers in organisations who will feel burnt out, who'll feel like they'll need a lot of support to get back to some level of normality. And, I think organisations can really be proactive with this now, in thinking about how are they supporting their people to make sure that people have got everything they need to minimise the impact later. What we don't want to see, of course, after a period of economic downturn that we've had because of coronavirus, we wouldn't want to see then our workforce being reduced even further because people are sick, because people are taking time off to recover and to recuperate. And so it's going to be very important for organisations to be proactive now in thinking about what do they need to put in place to make sure people are supported now, so that burnout doesn't happen, and that people aren't out of the business for even longer because of the negative impact. So that's the experiment, really.
Yeah, that seems to be really damaging to us as well. So we might need to find a way out of this. And I guess with this interview, I'll surely get an answer for that as well. So moving on to our next question, like I introduced in your introduction, can you little bit elaborate on the term listening to connect?
Yes, listening to connect. And that's a real fundamental part of being an executive coach. So, I might be going into a boardroom, I might be working with some of the senior leadership team, and they're busy people, and they've got lots going on, and there's lots of stories to tell, lots of interactions. And so for me as a coach, I have to do this straight away with people, not just listening to understand, because that's our main our first port of call. We listen to make meaning of what we're hearing. We listen usually to build the story in our own minds, and that's fine and it can be helpful. But when we really want to connect with somebody, when we want to listen to connect, that's listening in a different way. So I do it as a coach, and I also support and train executives to learn how to do this as well. And really listening to connect is about, what is this person really telling me? What are they telling me about themselves? And what are they telling me about how they're coping with the situation? So they might be telling me a story about how somebody else in their team isn't doing their job right. They might not be pulling their weight. There might be something going on there. but I'm listening to really understand and connect with, what does this tell me about this person? What are their values? What's really important to them? So sometimes I might reflect back to a client when I'm working with them. What I'm hearing is, perhaps they've just told me a story about Joe over there who isn't doing a great job. And then I would reflect back to them about what it tells me about them. I hear that you really value taking your job seriously, and that's really an important value for you. And so when other people aren't doing it, it sounds very frustrating for you. And so I'm connecting with that person with really what's underneath the story. When I'm helping leaders and in organisations, managers, team managers, to learn how to listen to connect, I always encourage them to ask questions that they genuinely don't know the answer for. So rather than, when we're listening to understand, we might ask, so have you done that task? Have you got that job done? Is that in the diary? Whatever it might be. We're trying to gain information. When we listen to connect, we ask questions such as, what did that mean to you? How did you find that? What were your challenges? What were you pleased about? We really don't know the answers to the questions. And so we become very curious about the other person, and we enter into that conversation to really get underneath the words and find out more about the meaning.
Right. So it's all hidden behind. So it's behind the context. You need to read behind those words. And if you get that, I guess that's something I really love, that concept of yours, to read behind the words. Thank you so much.
I was just going to say there's another thing on that actually that might be helpful. If we take an example of a leader maybe having a one-to-one with the member of their team, and in that one-to-one there's an opportunity there for the leader to ask questions they don't know the answer for. So let's imagine there is a problem with that person's productivity or their output. Maybe their performance isn't good and the leader wants to address that. Typically, we might go into that meeting and say, right, this is wrong, we need to change this. But what that does is it loses connection. The other person becomes defensive. Then they become very resistant to the messaging that they're getting. They don't want to hear the feedback. They don't want to know. They don't want to be there. So it becomes a very negative experience. But if that leader is really trying to connect, they would be asking them questions like, how did that piece of work go for you? What were you pleased about there? What would you like to have done better? And if you were doing that piece of work next time, how could you make it even better? And having those kind of conversations where we use feed forward instead of feedback, where we're asking, what would you do better next time? Really helps with the connection, because we're actually interested in that person, in their strengths, in their resources, in what they've got to offer. And that also gives the leader an opportunity to really listen and dig deeper, and also to build on that and to say to the person, so it's great to hear what you're pleased about. It's great to hear what you do differently. Is it okay if I also share what I'm pleased about? Because when I saw you doing that task, I was really pleased about these things. And if you could make it even better in my eyes, what I'd also like to see is... So it's about the future, because none of us like to know we've done something wrong. We don't like it. It makes us uncomfortable. And it stops a lot of leaders from giving feedback as well, because they don't want to feel critical towards the other person. So when we genuinely connect and we focus on what could be better next time, what they would be pleased about, what it would look like, how would they know it was going well, that's connecting, that's listening to connect.
Right. It's also about bringing positivity through what you speak, rather than just you wouldn't want to listen to what you would say to someone else. So why to say that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, how do you like? Can you tell us like how can leaders effectively engage with their employees? Like you just told us about listening to connect. So with that aspect as well, and other than that,
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that leaders engage people by being authentic in their leadership. So when people show up as a leader in an authentic way, that means they're allowed to get things wrong, they're allowed to make mistakes, but because they have the intention of genuinely trusting their people, of helping their people to utilize their strengths, where conversations are honest and open, and there's a culture of feedback and feed forward, that's what a leader can really do to help engage their teams, is to be an ally for them, to be somebody who is a can-do person. Doesn't mean that they're always going to get their own way with that leader. It doesn't mean that the leader is going to give them everything they want, but somebody who's fair and who would listen is really critical.
right,
And really, if a leader is using a coaching approach, and many leaders, they don't have to go off and get super qualified as an executive coach to learn coaching skills. They can learn some fantastic fundamental skills being a leader as coach, where they can really engage their people through asking great questions that improves the thinking of the other people by getting them to reflect and take responsibility, and take stock. I think if the leader genuinely wants to connect and engage, they need to listen, they need to ask good questions and, respond in a truthful way, I would say.
right. That was a really wonderful answer that you've given us. Like, given the scenario of pandemic and remote working that we are right now doing, what are the three most important qualities that leaders are supposed to display?
Yeah, I suppose it's quite similar, because if we're getting it right in the office, we should be getting it right when people are working at home as well. And we have to remember that leaders are human beings. They've also got all of the challenges going on. They might have kids at home, they might have elderly relatives who they have to care for. There's all sorts of challenges that we face. So I think one of the main qualities to start with is about being honest and collaborating with your team and letting them know where you are. Enhancing the trust of a team really comes from a leader asking for support and help sometimes, and being able to admit that they don't know everything, they haven't got it all sorted out. They can rely on their team members, and they can ask for help and support too. That gives a lot of credibility to a leader when they are willing to accept help, and also acknowledge that there are people in their team who might be able to do some of the tasks better than they can,
Right.
which again empowers people and helps people to feel valued and trusted, which is very important. Using the coaching skills as well would be something that would be really important. And I'm not sure I've done a great job there in whittling it down to three things, but I would guess that they are building on the things that we were just saying about how you would lead with engagement.
Right. So you have told us through a point of a leader and employee as well. Now, according to you, what is the organizational culture that will facilitate more employee engagement?
Great question. It's a big answer, but I will keep it brief. There's a whole range of research around this, of course. As an occupational psychologist by trade, we spend a lot of time looking at what does drive engagement within organisations, and there's a lot of research and a lot of evidence out there. I guess what we can pull from that, and what is easy for us to understand, is around clarity in messaging. And when an organisation asks their people what they think, that they don't just ask them and then carry on with business as usual, that they ask and they genuinely respond, or they do their best to respond, that they have a level of respect for their people by being interested in their experience, by empowering them to step up and take on more responsibility. And having regular, well, some organisations have two regular check-ins with people. They're sending out surveys all the time, and employees can get quite fatigued with that, because they feel like, oh, I just did this last month and now they're asking me the same questions again. So it's really careful that organisational change and culture is driven by listening to people and asking them, are our questionnaires too frequent? How else would you like us to ask you these questions? How would you like us to listen? What are we not listening to? And really engaging with small groups, forums, whatever the ideal scenario might be, depending on the size of the organisation. But just like a one-to-one coaching session, it's the same in an organisation with thousands and thousands of people. It's about listening to who's in front of you and creating space where people can sit and offload and talk and be heard. Right. So if that means creating small groups in a huge organisation, or just a few small groups in a small organisation, having that structure for people to be heard and listened to, I would say, from my own experience, is vital. And acting upon that information, which is crucial, because if people don't act, then that drives disengagement.
Right.
Employees think, what was the point of them asking me? I told them what I thought and nothing ever changes, right? So sometimes it's very hard to change culture, especially to change it quickly. It's very challenging. And yet to communicate back to your people, we've heard you and we're trying, that can sometimes be enough. Right. So yeah, I think it's very much about the listening, responding, walking the walk, not just saying we do this, but actually doing it.
Right. So all I could just understand from this was, you have to be empathetic, you have to listen genuinely, and not just to treat your employees as employees, but as human beings, right? Because I guess the situation has also taught us a little well about our organizations and people around us and how they manage, because we have combined our personal space and our office space together. And I guess that has made our leaders a bit empathetic towards their employees.
Yes, I hope so. I've got high hopes that, what people are describing as the new normal, I'm not sure I like that term, but it is going to be different. And, there's a lot of people have proven that they can work from home, they can be productive, that they can have a much better work-life balance by not having to travel for 2 hours to get to the office and so on. And it's my hope that organisations will acknowledge, recognise and give people more choice and flexibility in the way they're working, because that will definitely drive engagement. Right. That in itself, that trust, will drive people to feel more engaged with their employers if they're given a choice about how they are working. If for people who've got small children, or any age child where you have to take them to school, or you have to help them get on the bus to school, whatever it might be, mornings can be such a stressful time for people. And before people even get into the office, they could have had such a stressful morning, arguments with the kids, arguments with family members, with the spouse, and they walk into the office already full of stress hormone and high levels of cortisol. They're feeling defensive.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising they're not getting into great conversations with their teams. They're not feeling energized. So if we've got another way of working here that enables people to show up at work feeling fresh and ready without all of the negative, well, what a massive opportunity for organizations.
Right. So that was wonderful. And just to wrap up the interview, do you have any important sound bites that you would like to leave me or the audience with?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think, you get a sense of the way I work is very much about empowering other people. And I think, my mission actually is to enable leaders to empower their people and to empower themselves, to get rid of all of the rules and regulations that we've given to ourselves about how we should and should not be, and to step into a more authentic space as individuals, regardless of your role, whether you are a first line manager or a CEO. If you can be true to yourself, learn about your strengths, your blind spots, learning about how do others perceive me, how do others see me, how do I show up with others, stepping into that space of self-awareness and self-discovery, regardless of our role. And hey, I also do this. We all have to do this. Even if we know it academically, we have to still step into it and feel uncomfortable and test things out and, address things that make us fearful, seeing them as an opportunity to grow. And so as an executive coach, I love doing that at a senior level because people have got more experience, more bravery perhaps, and a higher level of skill set because they've been in their jobs a long time. But anybody can do that. Anybody can be a leader. You don't have to hold a title to be a leader. If you can lead your colleagues, if you can lead your family, if you can lead, in a small team, it's about being honest and true to yourself and honest and open with other people to take that feedback. So that's probably what I would like to leave the audience with.
That was really wonderful, Jane, and thank you so much for bringing so much positivity and your fresh views towards us and sharing them with us. Thank you for your time, and it has been really an enriching experience for me, and I'm sure this is going to be the same for our audience as well. So let's keep in touch, and you have a safe and healthy time ahead of you.
Thank you, Akanksha.
And
thank you.
Thank you so much for your time once again.
Okay, pleasure. Thank you.